Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Legitimate Coat 1002 from the Am I Overreacting subreddit, and it says, Am I overreacting? My coworker harasses me about my masculinity and DM'd my wife. I'm currently dealing with a work situation that I, 28 male, need advice on. Before work, I go to the gym about every other day. I'm hardly shredded, but I've got enough that you can see my muscles when I come into work in short sleeves. I wouldn't describe myself as a gym bro or a gym rat. I really just go for my overall health. Anyways, I work in an office with maybe 25 to 30 people that work there. We mainly do business to business sales and supply. Not really relevant to the story. Anyway, I get to work one day wearing a polo and a couple of girls and guys in the office were asking me if I'd been working out recently, and I told them that I had. It wasn't flirtatious or anything like that. I think they were just giving me a friendly compliment. Plus, I'm married, but as we're discussing me working out, my coworker, Gary, 40s male, walks in. Gary is a lot. He's one of those guys who constantly talks about how much he benches, his gains, and generally just tries to project this super intense alpha male image, which is annoying but none of my business really. This is where the problem starts. Someone asked me what my max bench was. I told them honestly, and Gary, who was lurking nearby, scoffed loudly. He then proceeded to tell me, in front of like 5 other co-workers, that my number, 170, was pathetic, and that I clearly wasn't a real man or an alpha. He then went on a tirade about how men need to be strong and dominate, etc, etc. It was super uncomfortable. I tried to just laugh it off and change the subject, but it didn't work. Since then, it's gotten worse. Every single day, Gary makes some kind of comment. If I'm getting coffee, he'll ask if I'm strong enough to lift the pot. If I'm walking to my desk, he'll flex and ask if I'm inspired yet to hit the weights like a real man. I've tried ignoring him, giving him short answers, even politely telling him to knock it off. Nothing works. He just laughs and says I need to grow a thicker skin. Then this is where I start to lose my shit a little. My wife, 27 female, texted me a screenshot yesterday. It was a DM from Gary. It was a picture of him flexing in the mirror with some ridiculous caption about being a true alpha and how real women know what's up. Summarizing, but you get the sentiment. He'd somehow found her on social media and sent her this unsolicited picture and message. I was beyond furious. I wanted to march over to his desk and punch him, but I knew that would only make things worse. I'm starting to dread coming to work. It's constant, it's demeaning, it's making me feel genuinely small and uncomfortable. And now he's involving my wife. Am I overreacting to this? Is this just typical guy banter that I'm not getting? Should I just suck it up and ignore him, or is this actually something worth addressing with HR? I feel like if I tell HR, it might just add fuel to the fire. But if I come down to his level and respond violently, I'll lose my job. Now, I apologize for chuckling at little parts of this as I was reading it. The mental image of this 40-something dude sliding into your wife's DMs with the gym mirror selfies and the alpha male captions is so absolutely cringeworthy. It sounds like a parody. I was almost hiding under my desk with secondhand embarrassment, but it does stop becoming funny real quick when you think about the actual mindset behind it as well. Gary actively searching for your wife, for OP's wife on social media, finding her profile, and deliberately sending that message. Stalkery vibes. And yeah, I believe HR should be involved. He's like, the workplace bullying as well is ridiculous in itself. But within the same post, OP gave a little brief update and said, I'm going to take this to HR tomorrow. Thank you guys for letting me know the severity of this. Commenter says HR should have been involved a long time ago. Be advised, he will pursue the wife angle more aggressively than ever. Opie says that's my concern, is that it'd just make him want to escalate things further. Commenter says that's a reasonable fear, but once you report it to HR, explain everything to them as you did here, you can continue to report any retaliation or additional incidents. He is harassing you and creating a hostile work environment. HR's job is to protect the company from being sued by you by intervening in your co-worker's behavior. Just keep documenting everything, because if HR doesn't effectively do its job, you will have a case for a lawsuit. Obviously, the hope is that it won't come to that. Good luck. Opie says, I think you're right. I think I've just let this whole thing about calling me weak get to my head. I'm just not into violence, and I feel like that's what he's trying to provoke. A downvoted commenter said, this guy's a deeply wounded narcissistic weirdo. Take this with a huge pinch of salt too, but he can't stand you because of pure envy. Strategically, I'd subtly suggest that to downplay your style, gym game, and become subconsciously less threatening and be as boring as possible. Relish in the fact that he's wounded by you, but it's clear you've got a target on your back. I don't think HR is a good idea. Quietly submit, but not because of fear. Feign admiration, stroke his ego, ask him for advice, but not in a begging way. Play the beta male archetype. You're clearly not. I reckon you project a quiet confidence that is bothersome to him. Don't, however, cower or beg him to stop, or even give him short answers. It's just fuel to the fire as he get a rise of successfully getting under your skin because he's so disempowered and weak under the bravado. I can see why that commenter was downvoted. I don't see the point in becoming subconsciously less threatening, like almost submissive to him. OP replied to it saying, I feel like maybe he had a crush on one of my female co-workers that was complimenting me, and I was trying to embarrass me to impress them or something. That might not be a bad idea, but I think some people have convinced me to go to HR now. Someone asks, what does Gary bench? OP says he claims 235. And OP did share a screenshot within that post of the messages to the wife, which the message to the wife just said, hey, and the wife replied, do I know you? And he replied with, I work with OP. If you're looking for a real man, let me know. He wouldn't know what to do with you. No idea how you're with such a weak man. And then shared a picture of himself in the mirror. And behind him, there's like loads of statues of bodybuilders. And again, it's just the thought process behind doing that. It's just so wild to me. But a couple of days later, OP did update, shared the link to the first post and says, just wanted to update everybody after my last post. I ended up going to HR. I honestly didn't think HR would do much because Gary is a good employee in terms of performance, but surprisingly, they took my complaint very seriously and were in disbelief when I showed them the screenshot of the DM he sent to my wife. The next day, Gary was not at the office, so I wasn't sure if they had fired him or if he was just on a suspension at first, but our boss told us to let clients know that he was out for the day if they called the office, so I assumed that meant he got suspended. He was back this morning. Usually he greets me with some kind of smart remark, but today he was really quiet and seemed to be avoiding eye contact with me. When I went to grab some coffee out of the break room a little after that, he came in there and asked if we could talk for a second. He proceeded to tell me that HR laid into him big time and they told him that if he pulled anything like that again, it would result in termination. He then proceeded to apologize to me for everything and said that, as pathetic as it sounds, he was just as upset that nobody ever compliments him on going to the gym, despite how much time he spends in the gym in his free time. He said it hurt that people acknowledged me when going to the gym wasn't as big of a deal for me as it was for him. He then asked for my forgiveness. I honestly felt kind of bad for him in that moment. It was really kind of pathetic, but he did seem sorry, so I told him I accepted his apology, but if he ever messages my wife on anything again, he'll have a lot more to worry about than an HR complaint. He again apologized. I don't know if this situation is fully resolved, given it's only been half a day, but Gary has been quiet and not at all like himself. We'll see if this lasts, but his apology felt genuine, so hopefully this is the last update I'll give on this situation. Thank you to everybody that encouraged me to go to HR. There's a lot of people that pointed out that Gary must be dealing with a lot of insecurities, and I think they were right. There's a few things I want to address that were questions in my last post. How did Gary have my wife's info? He found her Instagram. A lot of people thought he somehow got her number, which wasn't the case. Is this a made-up story? No. If you look at my comment history, you will see a screenshot of the Instagram DMs commented on my last post. It's so cartoonish that it sounds like fiction, but believe me, this is what people who buy into the red pill bullshit are like. You'll probably encounter your own Gary at some point if you haven't already. Do I really only bench 170? When I said that I benched 170, I meant that bench 4 sets of 12 at 170. I've never done a single rep max. Does Gary have a wife? No. From my understanding, Gary is divorced and has been single for a while. Someone asked OP what the wife's reaction was to the DM and the aftermath. OP says she didn't respond to the DM, just sent the screenshot to me. She thinks Gary is a weirdo and doesn't think he'd be getting any women anytime soon, let alone somebody else's wife. Someone's asked, will OP still be friends with Gary? OP says I don't think I can ever be friends after he hit up my wife, but I can definitely be civil at work. I think people like them might really be dealing with loneliness and are scared people might reject them, so they put up a wall. The commenter says, he might have been remorseful, but he absolutely deserves what he got. He crossed the line when he DM'd your wife unsolicited. When OP said it was pathetic at the end, then that's the way it felt as I was reading it. That he's just a deeply insecure guy who's jealous of people that complimented OP's progress while ignoring his own efforts. And I'm glad that HR took it seriously for OP and Gary seemed to genuinely apologize. But honestly, I'm not sure I'd have been able to look past that. I mean, someone messaging your wife with a picture of himself and that real man bullshit. I mean, ugh, dearie me. What do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now, our next story does have a trigger warning before we get into it of sexual assault, predatory behavior, and manipulation as well. So if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. This is from Level Leading 9609 and says, am I the arsehole here for ruining my best friend's wedding and likely our decades-long friendship? Throwaway account here. This is a long one, but it's as condensed as I can get it. So this happened just a few days ago. I'm still feeling guilty over what happened. This week was my best friend Christian's 30 male wedding, and I, 30 male, had the honor of being the best man. Christian and I have been friends for almost 20 years. He was the best man at my own wedding. Our wives are close too. All that good stuff. The night of the rehearsal dinner arrives. Everyone's ready to have a great time. Then about 10 minutes into the event, I look over and notice that my wife, Jasmine, 30 female, is shaking and talking in a panic about something to one of the other bridesmaids. I walk over to see what's up, and the bridesmaid tells me she just witnessed Christian's dad, Robert, 50s male, walk up to my wife and rub her ass multiple times. Then he says to Jasmine, loud enough for the other bridesmaids and her 10-year-old daughter to hear, mind you. Essentially, I get to touch you now because it's my son's wedding. I'm 20 feet away. Robert's wife is 20 feet away. Christian is 20 feet away. Didn't seem to stop Robert though. I immediately see red, but my wife begs me not to do anything. Let me tell you that in over a decade together with Jasmine, I've never once allowed something like this to just slide, and frankly, there's been hardly anyone who had the balls to disrespect my wife at all while I'm around. I'm trying my best not to walk up and deck the guy as hard as I can. If he weren't my best friend's dad and it wasn't a wedding, I'd 100% have ended up in jail for doing something violent. Mind you, I've known Robert about as long as I've known Christian. Always thought he was cool before this. Maybe this old dude thought that meant we were cool enough and that people could assault my wife whenever he wants. Finally, I lose my cool and walk up to Robert, who's nearby, kinda by himself. I put my arm around him and say, "Hey Robert, no more of that shit." He plays dumb at first, acting like he doesn't know what I mean. So I repeat myself, "You know what I'm talking about, no more of that shit." Finally, he seems to get it, stutters some kind of okay, and we go our separate ways. In my opinion, it should have stopped there. Unfortunately, it seems some of Robert's family may have overheard what happened. All of a sudden, rumors are flying all across the wedding. People know something happened. People are giving my wife dirty looks as Robert and his wife disappear for hours, presumably to fight. Whatever, we get through rehearsal night. Then the next morning, as people are getting ready, Robert approaches me alone and tries to give me a little We cool, fist bump. It's been less than 12 hours since it happened at this point. So I tell him flat out no, we're not cool. Still, he doesn't get the picture. Hour later, while the bridesmaids are getting ready, he approaches me again and asks, "Where's Jasmine? She's getting dressed right now." I see red again immediately and say, "Don't fucking talk about her." He gets all offended and walks away. Luckily, this was my last direct interaction with him for the weekend. Of course though, Robert then decides it's finally time to go find my wife, again while I'm not there, and try to apologize. Jasmine just says, "Get away from me." Finally, Robert gets it. We don't want apologies, we want to be left alone. Still, the vibe is off for the rest of the time. Robert is sulking, his wife is giving Jasmine dirty looks, and Christian's entire family are whispering every time we're around. It eventually apparently got back to Christian. He never talked to me about what happened, never checked in to see if my wife was okay. For reference, I would defend his new wife to the grave if anyone ever tried the same shit with her. The kicker was, at the end of the weekend, he said goodbyes to everyone but Jasmine and I. Seems pretty clear to me that he's chosen sides and we haven't spoken since. Should I have just let it slide? 5% of me says yes for the sake of peace and my friendship with Christian, but 95% of me also says I stopped something worse from happening. Reminder that the guy couldn't keep his hands to himself for more than 10 minutes into the rehearsal. Am I the arsehole here? Edit. Appreciate you all so much. This is making me realize the position my friend is in is likely extremely awkward and that we need to have a conversation. At the wedding itself, I really wanted nothing to get back to him and ruin the wedding, which is why we haven't talked about it. We all just got home last night. Jasmine and Christian's wife are meeting up for usual drinks tomorrow night, and Jasmine has resolved to tell her everything. They are very close, so I'm sure Christian's wife will believe my wife. That being said, I'm not sure where things will ultimately fall. In the meantime / coming days, I do have to come up with a way to reach out to Christian. I want to keep the friendship if I can for sure. We've been through honestly everything together. Now, just coming back to the initial question of this post, are you the arsehole for ruining your best friend's wedding? And you didn't ruin the wedding. Robert's the one who decided to sexually assault your wife at a family event. And the fact that he did it so brazenly with everyone around and then kept pushing boundaries just shows this wasn't some sort of misunderstanding of any sort. And honestly, if Christian can't see that protecting your wife from sexual assault was the right call, then maybe the friendship has just run its course in the end. You did exactly what a good husband would and should do. But a commenter says, your wife's safety and well-being come first, always. His actions were unacceptable sexual assault, and anyone excusing it, including your friend, is wrong. Opie says, thank you. I needed to hear this, honestly. Commenter says, not the arsehole, you didn't ruin anything. Creepy old man did. Understand your friend is in an odd position. Maybe talk it out when some time has passed or move on. You are fine either way. Honestly, based on his behavior, he would have 100% escalated things with your wife had you not intervened. Opie says that was my worry, and if not my wife, then someone else. There were plenty of young women at the wedding, some of them still basically kids. I shudder to think what else may have happened. You're right though, I'm hoping Christian is just trying to figure things out and hasn't totally abandoned our friendship, but we'll see. Someone asked, does Christian know the real story? Opie says, honestly, I don't know what he knows right now. My wife and his wife are meeting up tomorrow for drinks, so I have to think it will come up. I didn't even mention that Christian's wife has a long history of her own problems with Robert and Robert's wife, so it's not like she'd be coming to defend them. Someone says, has Robert done something like this in the past? And Opie says, to be honest, yes. One time 2 years ago, Jasmine thought she might have felt him tap her on the arse at a gathering. My dumbass tried to give him the benefit of the doubt because even she wasn't sure, but now I'm 1000% sure it happened. So Opie did come in with her update and says, alright guys, thank you again to everyone who gave me advice. You're all strangers and yet you couldn't have been kinder to me in a trying time. For your sake, I wish I could say this has one more interesting ending. But most of you were right. Christian is disgusted by his dad and is fully on Jasmine and I's side. We're still bros and he apologized profusely to my wife when she stopped over to meet up with his wife. We've spoken since and all is good now. Who knows how Christian's relationship with Robert will go from here on out, but all things considered, I'm fine with where things landed. Sorry for anyone expecting more drama, but I'm just glad to have my brother back. Commenter says to OP, great news. Out of curiosity though, as Christian hadn't even said goodbye to you and your wife, as well as his mum giving Jasmine dirty looks, what was the actual rumour being spread around, because it sounds like something framing Jasmine as the bad guy went around. OP says he was embarrassed and sad from what I understand, that's all. To be honest, he's like a little brother to me. I get it would have been hard to confront me. Commenter says I'm glad he understands the full story and stands by you and your wife. And the final commenter says, communication is key. I'm happy for all of you. Congrats on Buddy's wedding, and fuck Robert. And there was an absolute mix of comments after this one. Some people saying they wouldn't been able to forgive Christian for, not talking after the wedding and just walking out like that. Other people saying glad that they was able to make it up and they can see what position Christian was in as well. While not totally forgiving it, but being able to understand the awkwardness of the situation, not wanting to cause drama at the wedding, etc. But everyone agreeing that the dad is a creep. But what do you guys make of this situation? How would you have dealt with it if it was you? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go.